the way that we're going to be drawing Scrooge Mcduck tonight, we're going to keep our lines very light, really rough and sketchy, and we'll go back in later to darken in the lines that we want to keep. But with all that being said, are you folks ready to draw a rich duck? Excellent. Now to get us started with our portrait of Scrooge Mcduck, he's going to start with a basic shape, and the shape's going to be a circle. And so what we want to do is go towards the bottom half of our paper, and you want to start with a circle about the size of a softball, or an orange is a good size here too. As you can see here, I'm keeping our circle very light, really rough and sketchy. I'm just really building up my circle with lots and lots of curved lines. But once you've got your shape in place, the next steps we need to add in are what we call guidelines to help us place in some of Scrooge's features. And so hopping up to the top of our circle, we want to lightly drop down a vertical line. We'll cut our circle right in half, right down the middle. Then about 3/4 of the way down towards the bottom of our circle, we want to lightly sketch across a horizontal guideline next. And this will give us our basic foundation for Scrooge Mcduck, but it looks nothing like him. Right now we have Kylo Ren's lightsaber going through an orange. Not so much that duck that we know and love today. But with this foundation in place, to start adding in Scrooge's bill now, we want to go from the side of our circle and from right between our guideline here. I'm going to add in this little C-shaped curve here along the side. You can also think of this as a candy cane on his side as well. Then we'll want to hop to the right side of our circle. We'll add in that same candy cane over here on the right. And once you've got those candy canes in place, to really start adding in the upper part of Scrooge's bill, we want to go from the bottom of our candy cane, and I'm going to drop a little ways down from the outside. And from my little dot here, we want to stretch across a very wide rainbow next. And as I pull my rainbow across to the right hand side, we just want to make sure that this rainbow goes right through the bottom of our original circle. And with all of these curves in place, to close off the sides of his bill now, we want to go from the bottom of our candy canes, and we're going to connect this to the ends of our rainbow here to give us a shape that will look like a bent-in wire hanger, or one of those weird shaped tools from IKEA that no one knows how to use. Now to show that his bill is actually coming out towards us in perspective, we want to go right above our first rainbow. And on the inside of our circle, we'll stretch across a shorter rainbow here on the inside. And this is adding in what we call his bill line next. And once you've got the bill line in place, to really finish up the bottom of Scrooge's bill here, we want to go from the end of our rainbow, our little bill line, and on either side, you want to add in these two little C-shaped curves, a couple of parentheses here towards the bottom. And once you got those two letter C's in place, we're going to play another game of connect the dots. And so we'll connect our 2 points together by stretching across a very slight rainbow from right between the two. And with that lower bill in place, to really finish up the lower half of Scrooge now, we do want to give this duck his cheeks next. And so to add in those cheeks, we're going to go right above our candy cane now, and from our guideline, I'm going to wrap around another little candy cane. You can also think of this as a coffee mug handle as well. And as we stretch this from right around our bill line here, we want to go ahead and connect these little candy canes to the sides of his upper bill on each side. But with his cheeks in place, the hardest part of our drawings are complete, and you all are actually about halfway done with your sketches of Scrooge. And so with the hard stuff out of the way though, this is where we want to work on the most important feature of all for our duck, and that's going to be his eyes. Now, as some of you may know, Scrooge Mcduck was named after Ebenezer Scrooge of A Christmas Carol. He also stars in a Mickey's Christmas Carol as well. And it's here, tradition at the Animation Academy, where we always draw him angry before Christmas, just because he hasn't been visited by those 3 ghosts yet. And so to add in his angry eyebrows, we're going to go right above our bill line. And from right between our center guideline, you want to lightly sketch in this really big letter V next. But we do want to keep this letter V nice and light to start with, because we do want to add in some curves to Scrooge's eyebrows. So with this letter V kind of acting as a guideline, We do want to show a little bit of an overlap between his eyebrows. And so we want to go from the bottom of our letter V here. And I'm going to start this curve by adding in a letter U. And from the end of that letter U, we're going to turn this right-hand side into this wavy check mark. And so I'm adding in this wavy letter S curve that's going to stretch off to the edge of our circle here on the right. And once you've got that first curve in place, to show the overlap on the left-hand side, we want to go from the bottom of our letter U here. We'll add in half a letter U here on the left. And as I reach the left-hand side, we'll add in that same wavy check mark, and we'll thread this off to the left. Now, typically, a Scrooge Mcduck has these really big ovals for eyes. But since his eyebrows are furrowing down to give us that angry look, we're going to be seeing just the sides and the bottom of those original ovals. And so to really wake them up here, we're going to go right back here to the right-hand side. And from the inside of our circle, we want to follow the curve of our circle here on the inside. And so I'm just stretching down this really big letter C curve. And as we reach our guideline here towards the bottom, to give us out of the bottom of the eye, we'll make a little U-turn. And we'll connect this to the bottom of his eyebrow here. And once you've got that first eye in place, we're going to copy that over here on the left. And so we'll start from the top of my check mark. We'll follow the curve of our circle, adding in that same letter C curve. And as we reach that guideline, we'll make that same U-turn, connecting this to the bottom of his left eyebrow. But now that we've got those eyes in place, really the last little bit of detail we need to add in for his eyebrows are going to be some curves to show his little eyebrow muscles really pushing down to give us that angry look of his. And so to complete the eyebrows, we're just going to go from the outside of our original circle, and right above the eye here, we want to wrap around another little candy cane, and we'll give ourselves just a little bit of space to add in some thickness to that eyebrow muscle. And same thing on the left-hand side, another little candy cane here on the left. But right now, Scrooge is looking like he's seen some things. Like you probably saw one of those ghosts looking a little spooky here. And so this is where we really want to go ahead and wake up our duck. Now, you can get creative with Scrooge. You can have your duck looking any way you like. Up, down, cross-eyed. You can add in hearts, stars, dollar signs in those eyes. But if you want to keep them nice and classic, right at the bottom of his eyes here, I'm going to lightly sketch in a couple of ovals. And I always like to start these pupils nice and light, because when it comes to darkening in his pupils, since his eyebrows are furrowing down, we're not going to be seeing the entire oval shape of the eye. And so once I got my light ovals in place, I'll go back in and I'll just darken in the parts of those pupils that are sticking out on the insides of his eyes here and are being hidden by his eyebrows. Now, as we go back to darken in the pupils, right now this is looking more like Scrooge's nephew, Donald. To really make this Scrooge though, he does wear those little spectacles, little glasses that he has. And so to really dress him up and give him his glasses, you want to go right above his bill line here. And from the bottom of each pupil, you want to add in a small little circle for each little frame here. And with those little glasses in place, we can complete the bridging of his glasses by connecting this together with a little rainbow.
Oh, that's the guy that got mad at
Yes. But now it looks like Angry Donald with glasses on his bill. No, not so much Scrooge just yet. To really make this Scrooge now, we do want to add in his sideburns, his little feathers that flare out at the sides of his face. And so to add in his sideburns, we like to think of these shapes as a couple of shark fins for his feathers here. And so we'll go to the left-hand side. We'll draw in our first little feather, little shark fin. We'll have this first one going straight up. Then we'll want to have a really big shark fin curve off to the left-hand side here. And with that second one in place, we'll go right toward the bottom. We'll add in the shortest one of all. And we'll go ahead and connect this right along the side of his cheek. And with that first flap in place, we'll go ahead and copy that over here on the right. And so right above his right cheek, we'll start with that same sharp fin going up. And we'll want to have a second sharp fin curve towards his right hand side here. And finally, we'll close this off with one more sharp fin coming down. Instant sideburns. But once you got those feathers on the sides of his face in place, we can even lock in the sides of his head. So in that space between his eyebrows and his feathers here, you're going to pick out your favorite circle line from right between the two, and we'll darken this in. Now, right at the top of Scrooge's head, he does have 3 feathers, just like Donald has those same 3 feathers as well. And so they added the feathers at the top. We'll go from the top of our circle, we'll draw in another sharp fin going straight up. Then we'll want a second sharp fin curve towards his right eyebrow. And we'll follow that with one more sharp fin coming down. Now we're almost finished with our sketches of Scrooge, but what's he missing here at the top of his head? Yeah, that symbol of cartoon wealth, that iconic top hat. Now they say back in the day, the taller your top hat, the richer you were. So you can really make this top hat really as big as you'd like. And so to start the top hat, we're going to add in the tube portion of the hat first by going right up to the top of his head. And we're going to stretch out a couple of diagonal lines here at the top. And once you've got those 2 diagonals in place, we'll close off the top of this hat by connecting this together with a stretched out rainbow. But we do want to keep this tube portion still nice and light, because when it comes to adding in the brim of the hat, we're actually going to be lightly sketching through his head here. And so to build up the brim, we'll go from the outside of his head, and from the top here, I'm going to lightly stretch across a very wide letter U, keeping this nice and light as I go right through his feathers. And once you've got that U shape in place, we can close off the sides of the brim by making a little U-turn here in the corner. And as I bring this curve down, you want to go ahead and attach this to the side of his head here on both sides. And once you got that brim in place, when it comes to darkening in the top hat, you just want to darken in the parts of the hat that are sticking out here from the sides. And you can even darken in the tube portion of the hat here as well. Now we're almost finished with our sketches of Scrooge, but the last little bit of detail I want to add in for his top hat is going to be that little ribbon that wraps around it. And so you want to go right inside of the tube portion. We'll stretch across a little rainbow here on the inside. And if you're feeling a little fancy, you can even go back in and softly shade in this top hat, adding a little bit more contrast here. Now, according to Forbes magazine, Scrooge Mcduck is actually the richest fictional character in history. To kind of put things into perspective, his net worth is about $60 billion, whereas Tony Stark, his net worth is only about $12 million. So this duck definitely living his best life. I mean, he does spend his days swimming in his own money here. Once you got all that in place, that's also going to be the last step that you need for your sketches of Scrooge. But the last mark any artist truly needs to leave on the work before it's complete, though, are going to be your signatures. So make sure you do find a spot somewhere next to your drawing. And go ahead and sign big and proud, because you have just learned how to draw your very own portrait of Scrooge. I am loving these ducks here. It's all definitely worth $1 million.